What's up, dispatchers? Well, we make plans and God laughs. I had planned an adventure film, then a real-world emergency took place, a tornado. Mind you, there was nothing in the forecast and we didn't even get a warning before it hit. This is day 3 after the fact, and there are still hundreds of power poles that are snapped in half and roads are shut down everywhere. As you can imagine, everyone in the area is affected by the carnage. Local businesses are shut down. Trees are down all over the place. Vehicles got trapped and smashed and left in ditches. Crews are working around the clock trying to clear the debris off the road and restore power. First responders and law enforcement are out in full force. And like the powers that be say, you should never waste a good crisis, right? There are a lot of takeaways from this event and I feel compelled to share them with you. Now, number one, my family is completely safe because I was assertive and took action at the very beginning of the storm. And you should understand that your actions at the onset of an event like this greatly affect the outcome. Now, disclaimer. My training revolves going into the storm and dealing with all of the hazards that would be associated with it. Anybody who's been a first responder, been in the law enforcement, been in the military, they can tell you that at disaster scenes, there are things that you just cannot make up. People are definitely capable of going feral if you apply just enough stress. They cease to be able to reason dispassionately. Their situational awareness goes right out the window. As you can imagine, chaos ensues. And this happens with professionals as well. I'm sure that you have somebody in your life that when they drink a certain type of alcohol, it's like a switch goes off and they become a different person. It's like that, but everybody is completely sober. During my time as a SAR-1, I've seen all kind of stuff. People using their vehicles as battering rams at gas pumps. I've seen people ganked out of their cars at gunpoint. I've seen all the shelves emptied in the stores and local businesses vandalized by their own community. During the North Carolina fires, I actually witnessed a couple deer shooting out the double doors at a convenience store. And I've seen bears strolling through town. People will abandon their homes carrying their heirlooms or whatever they could grab in sheets. It's amazing what people find to carry around stuff that's important to them. I've seen people abandon their brand new cars with the keys in the ignition. Everyone is trying to find a way to charge their phone. But even when they get a charge, 9 times out of 10, they can't make a phone call because comms are down or the lines are overloaded. And there's always people that need their life-saving medication, their prescriptions, etc. But all the roads and stores are closed. That's always fun to deal with. I've seen children wandering around because they've lost their parents. You ever seen a mother carrying a cyanotic baby in her arms and wailing? Compound fractures, femurs sticking out of legs, burnt bodies, crushed bodies, suicides. And I'll stop that for now. The point being is that there's chaos that you don't see on the news, and that's for a good reason. And none of that even covers potential hazards like hazmat situations, down power lines, widowmakers, flash floods and fires, and even contaminants that are in the air. And I'm just scratching the surface. I say all of this as a fair warning. If you choose to go into the storm, understand there are probably going to be situations that you are not prepared for and certainly not trained for either. So back to my situation and what I did. Well, the phone rang and my wife is stuck in between one power pole and another down power pole. I obviously take off because I know I have a very small window to work in. Thankfully, she was only like 5 miles down the road. Now, when you approach a scene like I'm describing right here, it's really important to observe the first rule. Don't get monkey butt. If you can't save your own ass, you can't take care of someone else's. You have to make sure the scene is safe. You do not want to become part of the problem. You want to be part of the solution. It's always best to glass the area before you go into it just to make sure that it's safe. Now, my plan was to talk to the neighbors so that I could plan out an egress route. She was probably going to have to go through a creek and through some yards. And then sometimes you just get a front row seat to the Darwin Awards. So I hear the engine rev on a Mini Cooper and launch like it was at the drag strip because I think in their mind, they thought that they could go faster than electricity by just flying through the traps. As if that wasn't enough, they actually threw it into reverse, got out right next to the lines on the ground, and then gingerly took their foot and decided they were going to very slowly check the line to see if it was safe. I hope y'all are smart enough not to do that. Stay in your vehicle. Obviously, at that point, I knew that the lines were dead, and I was able to get my wife out of that situation, but that's when the second phone call happened. My son is stuck at somebody's house. He's actually doing some yard work, and a bunch of trees and power lines have gone across their access road, and he doesn't want to be stuck there. So since I'm out, I give him a safety brief. I directed him through the woods and told him to meet me on a road that I could access him with. When we finally got him in the vehicle, that's when the third phone call happened. So one of my wife's coworkers has abandoned her car. She has absolutely no idea what to do. She has no food, she has no water, she's wearing her dirty uniform and is not prepared to shelter in place, and the vehicle's about to run out of fuel. By the way, is your gas tank full? If it goes to a half a tank, you better fill it up for situations just like I'm describing. What if it was cold and you had to shelter in place and you needed the heat? Or in my case, where it's super hot and humid and you're trying to cool down an infant. Now, there does come a time where you may have to make some very difficult decisions. They might be decisions that you're not entirely comfortable with, like leaving somebody. You gotta understand, I mentioned the short window to work in. Wheels of the rescue effort are spinning. It takes a little bit of time for them to get going, but eventually they are going to spin. People are deploying, operations are being planned, they're trying to unify command, they're sequestering assets, etc. Anyway, the likelihood of having to shelter in place is rapidly growing by the minute. Now, I wasn't worried whatsoever because when I was employed by the government, I was required to be prepared to shelter in place for 2 weeks. The truth is, I just don't want to have to deal with my family for that long a period of time. And besides, we're driving under down power lines, we're navigating obstacles, we're off-road, we're riding over debris. And we definitely have a future video coming about how to prepare your vehicle for scenarios just like this. You can believe me when I say I am totally prepared. Chainsaws, rescue equipment, and all kind of stuff in my vehicle. But I know in my mind that it's just a matter of time before the road starts shutting down and all the construction crews get there and first responders and law enforcement, etc. We got to get going. Now, long story short, I was able to get everybody to a position of safety. And all's well that ends well. Well, it's not over exactly. I mean, the point of impact happened, but we still have a lot to deal with. People have been stuck at home for 3 days and they're gonna be stuck for a while longer. And this is spread out over several cities around us. No power, no internet, damn mosquitoes. A friend of mine reported that they might have the power back on by the time this video actually gets uploaded. Now, we're prepared and that's the name of the game, but a lot of people are not. Understand there's the after effects of the storm as well. If you choose to go out after something like this, understand that you can potentially run into problems there as well. There's actually a lot of things that could be talked about. And so I'm kind of interested. Why don't you get in the comments section, tell me about your experiences. Give me your insights. Let's hear what your recommendations are. And at the very least, like, share, subscribe, and I promise once I am able to leave the house, I will deliver that adventure film that was promised. But for now, there's a lot of stuff that I gotta do to help out my neighbors and the people that are around us. I got a lot of stuff to tend to here at the homestead. So I apologize for the delay, but I didn't want to waste this opportunity to talk about what just happened. Because the reality is that emergency waits for no man, and it's always best to be prepared. So get in those comments, fuel the fires.